If you like the following story, please consider liking and subscribing. Your support helps more than you know. We will have more stories coming shortly. Thank you for choosing this one to listen to. Lucas Bennett has always been proud of his life. Welding is not the most glamorous business, but he knew his craft and worked with full dedication. Since childhood, he dreamed of a simple life, a favorite job, a cozy home, and a faithful wife. Sarah Hale was the one, a school love for whom he was ready to do anything. They got married right after school, deciding that love would be stronger than all difficulties. Lucas immediately took on all financial worries, paying for Sarah's education and providing for their life. He even took on underwater welding, a difficult and dangerous job that brought in good money. Sarah successfully graduated from college without debt thanks to his efforts. After graduation, she got a job at a prestigious company, and Lucas was sure that their future would be as strong as before. But time showed that he was wrong. At first, everything was as before. They spent time together, discussed plans, and laughed. Sarah looked happy, although she was tired at her new job, but then she started changing her habits. She stayed late after work with her coworkers more and more often, first once a week, then twice. Lucas was wary, but he tried not to pay attention. One evening, when Sarah was getting ready to have dinner with her coworkers again, Lucas asked cautiously, "Maybe you should stay home. We haven't spent an evening together in a long time." She smiled and replied, "I miss you too. But we can go out tomorrow. These meetings are important for work. I need to maintain connections." He remained silent, realizing that excuses had become the norm. Over time, her evenings with coworkers turned into Friday girls' nights that supplanted their traditional dates. Lucas tried to talk to Sarah about how much their relationship had changed. "You used to be so different. Where is your enthusiasm for us?" She just waved him off. "Lucas, I just need to unwind. Everything is fine." But it didn't seem fine to him. One evening, when she came home late and didn't answer his calls, Lucas noticed that she wasn't wearing her wedding ring. It was a shock. He waited until morning and, feigning calm, asked, "Why aren't you wearing your ring?" "I'm just afraid of losing it at work," she replied, avoiding his gaze. Lucas then decided to install a tracker on her phone. It was a simple app, and he convinced himself that he was doing it for his own peace of mind. On Friday night, he looked at his phone and saw that she was at a bar, not a restaurant as she had said. Lucas put on his jacket, started the car, and drove there. When he walked inside, his eyes immediately found her. Sarah was sitting at a table with a group of people, among whom was a man he had never seen before. This stranger was sitting too close to his wife, and her ring was missing again. Lucas approached their table and, without taking his eyes off Sarah, asked, "Is this where you're dining with your coworkers?" Sarah flinched, and the man who had not removed his hand from her shoulder smirked. "You must be Lucas. Nice to meet you. I'm Tyler Reed." Lucas extended his hand, and Tyler quickly shook it but soon regretted it. Lucas squeezed his hand until it cracked, not letting go until he saw him wince in pain. "I'll be careful, buddy." Tyler squeezed out, rubbing his hand after Lucas finally let go. "Are you having fun, Sarah?" Lucas asked quietly. Looking her straight in the eye, she looked away. "It's just dinner, Lucas. Nothing special." Lucas sat down at the table in silence, and Tyler continued, clearly provoking, "You don't mind if I ask your wife to dance, do you?" Lucas looked at Sarah, waiting for her reaction. She nodded awkwardly. "Dance if you want," Lucas said, leaning back in his chair. "But remember who your husband is." Sarah stood up and walked with Tyler to the dance floor. Lucas watched them go, feeling the anger slowly building inside him. As he turned back to the table, the woman next to him spoke up. "You can't control her." "Who are you?" he asked coldly. "Vanessa Cole, her mentor. I help her grow." Lucas looked at her intently. "And you interfere in her marriage too." She smirked. "Sarah deserves better. She's only ever known you. Now she needs to spread her wings." Lucas turned sharply to Vanessa. "Spread her wings or something else?" Vanessa wasn't embarrassed. Why not? Had you ever cheated on her when you were away on business? "No," Lucas answered calmly. "I take my vows seriously." She snorted. "Maybe you should expand your horizons too." "I'd rather keep what I have," Lucas snapped. "And I advise you not to interfere in our marriage." Vanessa leaned closer, smiling slightly. "You can't keep her, Lucas. Sooner or later she'll leave." At that moment, Sarah returned to the table and sat down between Lucas and Vanessa. Tyler, annoyed that his place had been taken, smirked. "Welders don't make that much money, do they? $15 an hour." "35. Lucas replied without batting an eye. "More underwater." It was enough to pay for her tuition and car. Tyler chuckled. "Well, I guess you got that one. Loyalty isn't exactly in fashion these days, right, Sarah?" Lucas stood up abruptly, deliberately dropping his half-finished beer right on Tyler. "Oh, I'm sorry," he said calmly. "I think you need to change." Sarah jumped up, but Lucas was already heading for the door. "I'm going home." "I hope you come back soon too," he called over his shoulder. Sarah caught up with him a few minutes after he got home. She stormed inside angry. "What was that? Were you following me?" "No. I just went out for a beer and saw you with your coworkers." Lucas lied. "Why didn't you have your ring again?" "I just didn't want to lose it," she muttered. "That's not respectful of me." "You look like a free woman," Lucas said, not raising his voice. Sarah came closer and hugged him. "I love you. It's just a job. I didn't do anything." Lucas looked into her eyes, feeling suspicion growing inside him. "I hope it's true, because if it isn't, you know I won't forgive you." Sarah pressed herself against him, whispering, "It's okay, Lucas. I want this to work out for us." But Lucas already knew their marriage was falling apart, and this evening was only the beginning of the end. Sarah spent the next day in silence, avoiding Lucas's eyes. He tried to convince himself that she really wanted to fix everything, but something inside was bothering him. He saw how her behavior had changed, and he felt that she was already somewhere far away from him. The following week it happened again. Sarah was getting ready to go out with colleagues again on Friday night, but this time without any explanation. Lucas watched her as she got ready, put on a dress a little shorter than usual, and hid the ring in a drawer without even noticing its presence. When the door closed behind her, Lucas felt that he could not stand it anymore. He picked up his phone, opened the app, and saw that her location was again marked in the same bar where he had already seen her, with Tyler. He knew he shouldn't go there, but anger and resentment did not allow him to stay home. He started his old Toyota and sped towards the city, not even turning on the radio. His head was buzzing with thoughts. When he got to the bar, he stopped at the entrance and took a deep breath, trying to calm down. The atmosphere inside was lively, loud music, laughter, and the clink of glasses. But in all this noise, he immediately found her. Sarah was sitting surrounded by the same people, and Tyler was next to her again, his hand on her shoulder as if they had been a couple for a long time. This time, Lucas did not have the patience to wait. He resolutely walked towards their table and, stopping in front of them, said, "Forgot the ring again." Sarah paled, and Tyler grinned as if he had been waiting for this moment. "Lucas, please don't make a scene," Sarah whispered nervously, rubbing her palms. "I don't make a scene." Lucas answered calmly, "I just want to know why my wife is acting like a stranger." Tyler, laughing, reached for his glass. "Listen, brother, you're too serious. Maybe you should relax." Lucas didn't answer. He just looked at Tyler in a way that made him freeze in place. The silence at the table became oppressive. But Vanessa, who was sitting next to Sarah, quickly took the initiative. "Why are you back here, Lucas? You've already made it clear that she deserves better." Lucas slowly leaned closer to Vanessa and hissed, "The only thing she deserves is honesty. And if you think you can sick her on me, you're very much mistaken." Tyler tried to intervene. "Quiet, buddy, this is all for nothing. We just wanted to have a little fun." "You have a funny idea of fun," Lucas replied, looking at Tyler's hand lying on Sarah's knee. "Take your hand away while it's still whole." Tyler smirked but slowly pulled his hand away. "You're in trouble, kid." "Do you really think you can hold her back?" he asked mockingly. Lucas just chuckled coldly. "I'm not holding anyone back. I'm just leaving while I have a chance to leave with dignity." He looked at Sarah. "Will you come with me?" She hesitated, unsure of what to say. Vanessa looked at her, nodding ever so slightly in Tyler's direction. But Lucas saw the shadow of doubt in her eyes and knew that this might be the last moment he could change anything. Sarah said quietly, "I'll stay." Lucas nodded as if it wasn't a surprise and turned to leave. "Good luck." He called over his shoulder without looking back. When he got home, everything inside felt foreign. He walked into the kitchen, poured himself a whiskey, and sat down at the table in complete silence. The marriage he had once thought was unshakable was crumbling before his eyes. The next day, he woke up to his phone vibrating on his nightstand. It was a text from Sarah. "Sorry about yesterday. Can we talk at home?" But Lucas didn't want to talk anymore. He wanted action. Lucas spent the entire day in the workshop, trying to occupy himself with work. The hum of the welding machine and the smell of metal should have calmed him down. But this time, it didn't help. Thoughts about Sarah and Tyler haunted him. He knew that the trust between them was broken. The message from her continued to hang unread on his phone screen like a silent reminder that everything had changed. Later in the evening, when he returned home, a surprise awaited him. The house smelled of fresh bread and something delicious. The entire apartment was cleaned, and on the table, covered with a snow-white tablecloth, there were candles and 2 glasses of wine. In the kitchen, something was baking in the oven. Lucas was surprised. Such attention from Sarah was unusual in recent months. "You're home early," she said from the bedroom. When Lucas turned around, he saw Sarah standing in the doorway. She was wearing a little black dress that he had never seen before. It showed off her shapely legs and exposed her back. She looked like she was going on a date. "Is this for us?" Lucas asked, gesturing to the candles and the set table. Sarah came closer, wrapped her arms around his neck, and whispered, "I want to fix this. Dinner is just the beginning." Lucas felt her lips touching his neck, and for a moment he allowed himself to believe that this could be a chance for reconciliation. But something still bothered him. "Go get yourself ready," she said with a smile. "Dinner is almost ready." Lucas went upstairs, washed away the smell of metal and fatigue in the shower, but even the hot water couldn't lift the weight hanging over his heart. When he returned to the kitchen, Sarah was already pouring wine into glasses. "To us?" she asked, raising her glass. "To us," Lucas muttered, although he felt that something was wrong. He took the first sip, and it left a strange, slightly bitter taste on his tongue. He decided it was just nervous tension. But after a few minutes, his head started spinning and his muscles started to give out. He tried to stand up, but his legs wouldn't obey him. "Sarah, what have you done?" But his voice wavered and his vision blurred. The last thing he saw before he fell into darkness was her face. It wasn't regret, but something akin to anxious calm. When Lucas came to, he found himself sitting in a chair in the bedroom. His arms and legs were tightly bound with plastic ties. He tried to move, but nothing happened. Every movement only made the knots tighter. Sarah walked into the room with Vanessa. Both were calm, as if everything was going according to a premeditated plan. "What the hell is this?" Lucas barked, although his voice sounded hoarse. "This is your new horizon," Vanessa chuckled, leaning against the door. Sarah looked down, avoiding his gaze. "I'm sorry, Lucas, but this is best for both of us." At that moment, Tyler entered the bedroom with another man from the office. Both were grinning, as if they were already celebrating their victory. "He's still conscious." "Great," Tyler said, looking at Lucas. "Let's give him a show." Lucas's chest tightened as he watched the two men close in. His heart hammered, not from fear but from disbelief. He could see Sarah trembling, her eyes darting between them, silently pleading for something neither of them could give. She tried to speak, but no words came. Tyler smirked, feeding on Lucas's despair. "You thought you had control. Now you'll learn what it means to lose it." Sarah's voice cracked, a sound that barely resembled her own. "I don't want this." "It's too late to back out, honey," Vanessa intervened coldly. "You knew what you were getting into." Lucas pulled against the zip ties until they cut into his wrists. He felt every pulse of blood burning under the skin. Tyler leaned closer, whispering something cruel to Sarah that Lucas couldn't hear. But he saw the way her shoulders folded inward, as if a part of her spirit had just shattered. The room was thick with silence, broken only by the sound of breathing and muffled sobs. Lucas's world blurred. He couldn't move. He could only watch the shadows on the wall move with the cruelty of the moment. Every sound dug deeper than any wound. He wanted to scream, but the air in his lungs refused to move. The humiliation wasn't just what they did. It was that he was forced to witness it. Two of them having sex with my wife right in front of me, powerless, broken, erased. Minutes felt like hours, and when it finally stopped, the silence became unbearable. Tyler approached Lucas, holding the remnants of Sarah's dignity in his hands. He threw them on Lucas's lap and leaned down to his ear. "If you tell anyone about this, no one will hear you. From now on, you are nothing." Sarah sobbed, sitting on the floor as if everything had not gone as she expected. But Vanessa only smiled coldly. "Everything is going according to plan. Now untie him and leave." Sarah cut the ties with trembling hands, and Lucas slowly stood up, feeling a dull pain in his limbs. He silently stood up and headed for the exit. "Lucas, wait," Sarah whispered. He paused for a second but didn't turn around. "You've made your choice in betrayal. How could you let them do this to me? To us," he said over his shoulder, and walked out, slamming the door. He went down the stairs and called the police. His voice was hoarse but determined. "I want to report an assault and unlawful confinement." Lucas left the house feeling a dull ache in his muscles and a rage building inside him. He had managed to call the police, and now all he could do was wait. He knew that this night was a turning point. Nothing would ever be the same again. A few minutes later, police cars pulled up to the house. Two officers went inside, and Lucas sat on the steps, watching the life he had once tried to save crumble on the other side of the wall. Sarah, Vanessa, and Tyler were arrested on the spot. They were let out in handcuffs, and Sarah tried to say something to Lucas, but he turned away. "You won't be able to justify yourself this time," he said coldly before the police led her away. The police recorded his statement and sent him to the hospital for a medical examination. The doctors confirmed that traces of sleeping pills were found in his blood. This was strong evidence of illegal detention. But Lucas knew that the opponents he faced were not going to give in so easily. A few days later, he decided to leave the city to his old friend Ethan Ward. Ethan was like an older brother to him. They had not seen each other for a long time. But Lucas knew that only there he would feel safe. When Lucas arrived, Ethan greeted him with a wide smile but quickly noticed the signs of fatigue and bruises on his friend's face. "It looks like you've had a hard time, brother," Ethan said, shaking his hand firmly. "You have no idea." Lucas replied, shaking his head. At Ethan's house, Lucas met his sister Claire Monroe again. Over the years she had changed. A beautiful, confident woman with a sparkle in her eyes stood before him. Claire immediately noticed that something had happened to Lucas. "She hurt you, didn't she?" Claire asked, looking straight into Lucas's eyes. He nodded, unable to lie. Claire came closer and hugged him tenderly. "Then forget her, you deserve better," she whispered. Lucas couldn't help but notice how nice it was to be with someone who hadn't betrayed him. These warm moments gave him a break from the pain and anger he had been building up. That evening, sitting on the veranda with beers in hand, Lucas and Ethan discussed his situation. "They'll get out of jail on bail, I'm sure of it," Lucas said, rubbing his temples. "Then we'll be ready." Ethan answered calmly, "You're safe here. If they come here, they'll regret it." Claire joined them with a cup of tea. "If they come, I'll be ready too," she added with a small smile. "I have a good eye, you know." Lucas grinned, feeling something like hope for the first time in a long time. He realized that with Ethan and Claire around, he wasn't alone. He had people who were ready to fight for him and with him. A few days later, Lucas received a call from his lawyer confirming his fears. Sarah and Tyler were out on bail, and their influence in the justice system could spell trouble for Lucas. "Be prepared, Lucas," the lawyer warned. "We got a restraining order, but it's not something you can rely on." Lucas thanked the lawyer and hung up, feeling a growing sense of unease inside him. He knew it was up to him now. "They might come for me," Lucas told Ethan and Claire, "but I'm not running anymore. If they show up here, I'll meet them." Claire nodded gravely. "I'll be there, Lucas. This time we'll finish this once and for all." Together they began to prepare. Ethan tested his old hunting rifles, and Claire insisted on showing Lucas how to shoot properly. They spent several hours in the backyard honing their skills. "If any of them come here, they'll be the last person I see," Lucas said, looking at the target he had just pierced with a burst of gunfire. Claire smiled, proud of his determination. "You can do this," she said quietly, "and I'll be there for you." They knew their enemies wouldn't leave them alone, but now Lucas was ready to face them. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he could fight back. And this time, he wasn't alone. Lucas woke up at dawn to the sound of a distant engine. He opened his eyes and immediately sensed that something was wrong. Ethan's house was isolated, and uninvited guests had never shown up so early. He quietly got out of bed, dressed quickly, and looked out the window. A black SUV was rolling down the dirt road leading to the house. "They're here," Lucas muttered under his breath. Feeling his heart squeeze with anxiety, he quickly woke Ethan and Claire. "The car is pulling up. It's them." Ethan just nodded, calm as always, and took an old shotgun out of the gun cabinet. "Time to clean up, brother." Claire was already ready. She put on her jacket and checked the rifle, looking like she was born with this weapon in her hands. Her confidence was contagious to Lucas. They took up positions. Lucas and Ethan remained on the porch, and Claire disappeared into the woods to observe what was happening from the side. The SUV stopped at the house. The door swung open, and Tyler, Vanessa, and two other men jumped to the ground. Sarah remained sitting inside watching what was happening through the open window. Tyler grinned, looking at Lucas. "So, buddy, did you think you could hide?" "And you thought I would run forever," Lucas answered calmly, clutching the gun in his hands. Vanessa stepped forward and looked at Lucas with disdain. "You've always been a weakling, and now you're going to die." "Go ahead," Lucas said, not looking away. One of the men pulled a gun from his belt and aimed it at Lucas. But before he could fire, there was a sound of gunshot and the man fell to the ground clutching his shoulder. It was Claire. "Damn it," Tyler cried, grabbing his gun. Lucas took advantage of the confusion and fired into the air, scaring them away from the porch. "This is your last chance to get out of here in one piece," he warned, but Tyler only laughed. "You don't know who you're dealing with." At that moment, another shot rang out and the second assailant fell face down. Claire, hiding in the shadows of the forest, acted with cold blood and precision. "Get on the ground before it's too late," Ethan shouted, pointing the gun at Tyler. Vanessa rushed to the car, but Lucas shot at her feet, freezing her in place. "It's over. The police are already on their way." Sarah finally got out of the car, raising her hands up. Her face was distorted with fear and despair. "Lucas, please don't let them kill me," she whispered, trembling. "Why? You chose this path yourself. You were going to calmly watch as they kill your husband. What does that say about you?" He answered coldly, "Now live with it." Sirens were heard in the distance. Tyler, realizing that there was no way out, dropped his gun and raised his hands. Vanessa only looked angrily at Lucas but also obeyed. When the police cars pulled up, the officers quickly neutralized all the attackers. Claire came out of the woods and stood next to Lucas. Her gaze was firm and calm. "You saved my life," he told her quietly. "I promised I'd always be there for you." Claire replied with a small smile. The police loaded Sarah, Tyler, and Vanessa into the cars. This time, they were facing trial, and no one would be able to get them out. When it was all over, Lucas, Ethan, and Claire returned to the house. The silence enveloped them. But this time, it was calm and peaceful. "I think it's over for sure now," Ethan said, putting the gun away in the closet. Lucas looked at Claire. She gave him a soft but confident smile. "Now we have a chance at something new," he said quietly. Claire came closer and took his hand. "And I'm not going to waste this chance, Lucas." He hugged her, feeling all the hardships and pain finally go away. For the first time in a long time, he was truly free. "We did it," he said, looking into her eyes. "And it's only going to get better," Claire replied, clinging to him. Several months passed since Tyler, Vanessa, and Sarah appeared in court. The case was a big one, and the evidence gathered by the police was overwhelming. The CCTV footage, Lucas's testimony, and the evidence found all led to the court handing down harsh sentences. Sarah, Tyler, and Vanessa were given lengthy sentences for unlawful restraint assault and conspiracy to commit murder. This time, neither their connections nor their money could save them from prison. Vanessa and Tyler were sent to maximum security correctional facilities, and Sarah was sent to a women's colony. She wrote letters to Lucas from prison, begging for forgiveness and hoping for leniency, but he never responded. For him, it was the end of a chapter. He no longer wanted to return to it. Thanks to the court's verdict and the skillful work of his lawyer, Lucas successfully completed the divorce, keeping all of the joint assets for himself. He also managed to obtain a large settlement from the law firm that tried to cover up the crimes of its employees. The firm collapsed. Its partners were arrested for participating in fraudulent schemes and concealing crimes. After all the trials were over, Lucas felt that his life was finally back under control. But this time, he was a different person. The one who selflessly believed in love and gave himself completely was left in the past. Lucas and Claire became inseparable. Not only did she help him cope with pain and loss, but she also became a new meaning in life for him. A few months after the trial was over, Lucas got down on one knee and proposed to Claire. She happily accepted, and they had a small but cozy wedding on Ethan's property. After the wedding, they decided to fulfill Ethan's longtime dream, to open their own business. The three friends registered the company M&B Fabrications, which was engaged in custom manufacturing and welding. Claire kept the books. Lucas was engaged in production, and Ethan coordinated orders. Life on the hill became a source of peace and joy for them. Claire proved to be not only a great business partner, but also the woman Lucas had always dreamed of. She valued his loyalty and honesty, and he finally found peace and security in her love. The past gradually faded into the fog of memories. Lucas no longer worried about what was left behind. Now there was only the future for him. Bright, honest, and full of true love. One evening, sitting with Claire on the veranda, Lucas looked at the sunset and smiled. He knew that there would be difficulties and joys ahead. But this time, he was sure that with Claire by his side, he could cope with everything. "I think this time will be different," he said quietly, looking at the light slowly fading on the horizon. Claire took his hand and pressed herself against him. "And I will be there always." Lucas leaned over and kissed her, knowing that he had finally found the life he had always dreamed of. And that ends today's story. Thank you for listening. We will be uploading more shortly. Take care, stay safe, and we will see you soon.